Hello there, I'm Keo Cerrone Beatmaker, and welcome to the Monday Mindset. And on this episode, we're going to discuss understanding our domestication and attachments. Introduction. As the fog recedes, he becomes aware of a mirror in front of him, and he can vaguely see his reflection. When the fog completely clears, he can see himself fully again. The shaman is aware that he is the truth, and the reflection in the mirror is a reminder. It only reflects the truth. He begins to understand the reflection as an instrument of awareness. Every time the fog begins to creep in and keep him from knowing who he really is, he can look to his mirror. Don Miguel. In the art of living, to know oneself, one must stay true to oneself. For the mirror is a reflection of the essential reality of our truth. The fog is a domestication, the vices and sensations, the impulses and aggression that blurs our ability to distinguish the essential reality from the false reality. As one is unable to distinguish thyself, many will shatter their mirrors, cover them. For the truth of the essential reality is as deadly as the portrait of Dorian Gray. To bear witness and learn from one's scars, punctures, mistakes, embarrassments, outbursts, and failures is an instrument unwanted. For the music that plays is a funeral that sings. Many would rather live in immortality rather than die in enlightenment. As the shamans, practitioners of the art of living, know to be ready to die, to feel alive. For to leave this world with light in your heart is to shine the path on your spiritual journey. The body dies and recycles. The spirit is everlasting. The attachment to immortality is a fog that stifles our awareness of the present. In doing so, prevents us from living wholeheartedly. That is why practitioners in the art of living have inhaled death and exhaled living. For with each breath clears away the fog that denies our absolution. The fog represents our attachments and our domestications, which together keeps us from experiencing the truth of who we are. Don Miguel. We often cling to the fog because it's better to not see the truth. For seeing the truth is seeing reality. And many people live in the false reality. And in the false reality, it contains many of our attachments, our vices, and our sensations, whether it be drugs, liquor, men, women, entertainment, gambling, religion, social media. Many of these attachments are used to distract us, to falsify our reality. And many of our own domestications of our youth and even of our adulthood can become our attachments. Dealing with the domestication that was learned through parents of strict nature, of abusive nature, of a free-spirited manner. And we cling on to those fears, those sensations and vices, whether as punishment or as pleasure. Pleasure to mask the pain and obfuscate the disappointment within ourselves. Oftentimes, many of us struggle with living up to the domestication that was brought upon us. And some of us have achieved such domestication only to feel soulless and empty, bitter and resentful. There are many in this world who have succeeded in such greatness, but feel none of the pleasure, gratitude that comes with it. See, our domestications are how they often deny us who we truly are. Oftentimes, they mean well, but many times they're trying to live vicarious through you, to prevent you from being who you truly are. Many times it's a fear of never having the chance to accomplish their own dreams due to the domestication that they have experienced. Oftentimes they call it, generational trauma. But how much of that generational trauma was designed by the family itself? How much of those traumas are not even our own? They're somebody else's. That's also the danger of social media and its domestication of oneself and your attachment to it. You become attached to other people's pains and joys and success, and you completely forget your own, or you resent your own success because it's not as good as everyone else's on social media. And so you become attached to a false narrative in the hopes of that narrative to represent your essential reality. How many of us use and live a false narrative in the guises of reality? And that is the dangers of the false reality, is that it is a form of domestication. And you have to ask yourself, what does that mean for you? What type of domestication are you currently experiencing in your own life that is denying you from experiencing your totality? That is denying you the potential to actualize your personhood? Ask yourself, how many of us even take the time to even ask ourselves that question? Many of us don't. Some of us don't even know what that question really means because we don't even know who we are because you're living someone else's life. When we become attached to things, that attachment is to replace something that's missing inside of us. When we become domesticated, that is us not allowing our own individuality to bear fruit. Thousand clowns running about. It's more prevalent now than ever. The attachments. I believe it's Florida that just banned social media for children under 16 years of age. They know how detrimental it is to a child's mind, to a child's growth, to a child's individuality. You're seeing it with adults. How many adults have completely foregone their individuality and replaced it with a hive mentality, have replaced it with their domestications? And living in the hive mentality is a form of domestication. Do not think that you are exuded from that, excluded from that. A hive mentality can be about a couple or a damn well couple 100 million. How long until? How long until the world conscious wakes up from the abuse that has been brought upon it by outside forces of machinations of demons and serpents? Imagine living in a world where people's domestication and attachments are bound to evil. We live in a world where the plebs celebrate and advocate for war, for the erosion of their own freedoms and free will. How do we break the masses from such domestication? When you're living with Stockholm Syndrome in a prison, it's hard to know what's real and what's true, what's fake, and what's by design. Ring around the posy. Within 3 years, pockets full of domestication, and hearts filled with manipulation. You have women becoming domesticated by self sabotage within a movement that values abortion of one's identity over the community's Marxist ideology. Such domestication has spread within men, leaving them docile and weak and unable to attain full function of their manhood. Regardless of their sexual desires. We have broken the spirits of men and women within such domestication that they have fallen victim to the attachment of the government. They have fallen attachment to pharmaceuticals. They have fallen attachment to big tech. And they cast out and castrate anyone who dares to swim against the current. And that is why we live in the age of domestication. We live in a time and place where to be human is to be a threat. How is one supposed to maintain their humanity when they have become cyborgs of their attachments and domestications? Or they have become mutated by fear and propaganda, which is another form of domestication. Fear, propaganda. Our parents feared us. Parents provided propaganda. If you didn't behave, Santa wouldn't give you any presents. Fear. If you go too far down the road, the bad man will get you. How's that any different than the fear and propaganda that has been brought to you now? Do you ever have moments where you catch yourself becoming domesticated by the fear and propaganda? Do you ever catch yourself in those moments of domestication from lessons that your parents taught you that only provided pain and the inability to move forward? Many of us have to look ourselves in the mirror and wipe away the fog and ask ourselves, are we an individual or are we domesticated? If it is cloudy or he can't see himself, he knows he is on the wrong track, trapped in the fog. But as soon as he remembers his authentic self, the smoke immediately begins to clear. To remind himself of who he really is and the power of the fog to obscure his perception, the shaman changes his name to the smoky mirror. Don Miguel. To embrace the art of living is to live as your authentic self, free from the illusions of the false reality, free from the domestication of our upbringing, free for you to design, free from the need of a Doppler radar. For as clouds bear upon us, our instincts will guide us towards the reflection of the essential reality, towards redirection within our authentic self. To look up at the mirror daily is to remind oneself of who we truly are, of the path that lies ahead, of the goals that must be accomplished, of the fears that must be conquered, of the love that must be found. We are the smoky mirror, the blade of Zatoichi. We are the warriors of light. No matter how thick of a smoke that blinds our eyes, our instincts will always remain true. Our authenticity will never be captured by the domestication of the attachments that test our resolve and the truth in the mirror. To caress your reflection is to soothe the soul, to acknowledge one's perfections of imperfections, the sweet lullaby that reflects from the enlightenment of our conscious awareness of the mirror within. Do not fear the smoke. Face it, challenge it, command the elements as gods command fears in our mind's eye. To embrace the authentic self is to embrace the God within, as each and every one of us is a reflection of the hands that have crafted our design. For such design was foretold as a tadpole swims would. Immaculate Conception is God has chosen you to embrace the art of living, to live a lesson that hasn't been learned, to discover what it means to be human by embracing the authentic self. A life worth living is a journey worth spent. Be the reflection in the mind's eye. Be the smoke that reminds oneself. Be the smoky mirror. I hope you enjoyed this episode of The Monday Mindset. To learn more about myself and how you can support The Monday Mindset, head over to my Patreon page at Ronin Art and Music. That's Ronin Art and Music. If you're interested in reaching out, follow me on social media. On Twitter, Ronin Art and Music, or at me at Kios Ronin, KioosRonin. On Instagram, follow me at RoninArt_music. And if you prefer to email, hit me up at themondaymindset009@gmail.com. That's themondaymindset009@gmail.com, and that is all lowercase. If you're listening to this on your preferred streaming service, please make sure to subscribe. If you're listening on YouTube, make sure to subscribe, leave a comment and a review, and slap that notification bell. On Apple Podcasts, please make sure to subscribe, rate the podcast, and leave a review, as this will help me and the podcast grow. Stay positive, stay focused, stay true, and much love.